means a follower of Ram. That makes sense. He received this name because Lakshman always follows and serves his brother Lord Ramachandra. He is a great acharya of the Sri Sampradaya, one of the four major Vaishnava Sampradayas. This Sampradaya propounds the Vedanta philosophy of Vishishta Dvaitavad, qualified monism. Gaudiya and Sri Vaishnavas share many teachings and practices. Ramanujacharya wrote many famous commentaries on the Upanishads, Puranas, and Bhagavad Gita. Sri Bhasya, his commentary on the Vedanta, presents a formidable challenge to Sankaracharya's impersonal commentary. His samadhi is in Sri Rangam. Some pastimes of Sri Ramanujacharya. Ramanuja studied with a Mayavadi guru, Yadava Prakash, to master Mayavadi philosophy and defeat it. When the brilliant Ramanuja kept refuting his arguments, Yadava Prakash tried to murder him. That's interesting. Your guru tries to murder you because you're defeating him with your arguments. Just shows you how shanty this Mayavadi philosophy was. So much free from ego. Unsuccessful, he expelled Ramanuja from his school, who before leaving completely defeated his guru's theory of oneness and no distinction. While a certain unity can be seen in the interrelatedness of all things, still everything within the universe has its own distinct reality. Pearls strung in a thread share unity. Collectively, they form an organic whole, a necklace. Still, each individual pearl has its own unique qualities. Therefore, Shankara's principle of absolute oneness can't stand. Rather, the principle of unity, characterized by different qualities, must be accepted. So it's a nice analogy for you to use. Ramanuja initiated anyone regardless of caste. He established that the position of a Vaishnava surpasses all social limitations and considerations. Identifying himself as a servant, Ramanuja taught the worship of the Vaishnavas. Several times before, envious Brahmins tried to poison him. To teach detachment to one disciple, Ramanuja staged the following demonstration. He told the disciple to create confusion among the sannyasis by switching their cloth at the bathing ghat. When the sannyasis, who were big scholars and renunciates, started wearing each other's clothes, a big argument began. The disciple could see that the renunciates were so attached to some ragged bits of cloth that they fought over it. Then Ramanuja sent the disciple to the home of his grihastha disciple Dhanurdas. Ramanuja engaged Dhanurdas in the temple to ensure he wouldn't be at home. Following Ramanuja's order, the disciple began stealing jewelry from Dhanurdas's chaste wife, who was sleeping. After the disciple took the arms from one side of her body, she suddenly turned over, and the startled disciples fled through the window. But he waited outside to witness the reaction of Dhanurdas. Upon returning home, Dhanurdas was told by his wife, "I'm worried that the temple needs money." What makes you think that? Asked Dhanurdas. Because while I slept, one of the temple devotees came through the window and began stealing jewelry from my body. To go that far, I think those poor saints must desperately need money. What did you do while I was stealing your money? I turned over, but he fled through the window. Why did you do that? Asked Dhanurdas. I didn't mean to scare him. I turned over so that he could take the jewelry from the other side of my body as well. That's a good lesson for grihastas who want to help support the temple. If anybody's watching who's thinking, how can they help the temple? We're not going to come into your house and steal your jewelry while you're sleeping, but the mood there is to give. Dhanurdas rebuked his wife. If you were not so affected by false ego, you would have given him all your jewels. Now what shall we do? We have failed miserably. His wife lamented, "You are right. It is only my pride that kept me from surrendering everything. How will we ever make advancement?" Watching all this, Ramanuja's disciple was astonished at the humility and surrender of these grihastha devotees. Ramanuja explained the meaning of these two events. The sannyasis were so attached that they fought over some clothes, but the grihasthas were detached even from costly jewels if they were needed for the Lord's service. Sri Ramanujacharya ki. I think also it's Shalagram and Tulsi Jala Dan today. During the hot summer season, a pot with a hole in the bottom is hung over the tulsi plant and the Shalagram Shila, and water is thus continually dripped on them to keep them cool. In the West, this might not be practical as it's quite cold during this season. Correct. If you go to Radharaman temple in Vrindavan in summer, you'll see Radharaman deity is constantly bathed. They have a shower over his head, and all the water runs off him onto the altar, onto the floors. When you come in the temple, it's soaking wet of Chanamrita. You're taking your obeisances in the deity's Chanamrita. And the service is to keep the Lord cool throughout the whole summer. So this is from Nectar of Devotion, chapter entitled Spontaneous Devotional Service. In the 10th canto, 87th 87th chapter, verse 23 of Srimad Bhagavatam, the Vedas personified address the Lord in this way: My dear Lord, yogis meditate upon your localized feature, and thus they achieve the spiritual perfection of being merged in impersonal Brahmajyoti. Persons who treat you as an enemy achieve the same perfection without meditating. The gopis who are embraced by your serpentine hands and who have such lusty attitudes also achieve the same perfection. And as far as we're concerned, being different demigods in charge of the different parts of Vedic knowledge, we're always following in the footsteps of the gopis. Thus we hope to attain the same perfection. By the same perfection, we must always remember the example of the sun and sunshine. Those who are impersonalists can merge into sunshine like Brahmajyoti, whereas those who are in love with the Supreme Person enter into the Supreme Abode of the Lord Golok at Vrindavan. The lusty attitude of the gopis does not refer to any sort of sex indulgence. Srila Goswami explains that this lusty desire refers to the devotee's particular attitude of association with Krishna. Every devotee in the perfectional stage has a spontaneous attraction to the Lord. This attraction is sometimes called the lusty desire of the devotee. The lust is the devotee's excessive desire to serve the Lord in a particular capacity. Such a desire may seem to be a desire for enjoying the Lord, but actually the endeavour is to serve the Lord in that capacity. For example, a devotee may be desiring to associate with the personality of Godhead as his cowherd friend. He will want to serve the Lord by assisting him in controlling the cows in the pasturing ground. This may appear to be a desire to enjoy the company of the Lord, but actually it is spontaneous love, serving him by assisting in managing the transcendental cows. Sri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 12, entitled The Perfect Society for Spiritual Classes, Text 25. Ke Kani Vayo Nishvasams. Ke Kani Vayo Nishvasams. Teja Shushmanam Atmavan. Teja Shushmanam Atmavan. Apsu Asrik Shleshma Puyani. Apsvasrik Shleshma Puyani. That was an easy one, wasn't it? Kshito Shesham Yatod Bhavam. Kshito Shesham Yatod Bhavam. Kekani Vayonish Vam. Kekani Vayonish Vasams. Teja Shushmanam Atmavan. Vasrik Shleshma Puyani Kshitoshesham Yatod Bhavam Kikani Vayonisvam. Try it again. Kikani Vayonishvasams Teja Shushmanam Atmavan Apsvasrik Shleshma Puyani Kshitoshesham Yatod Bhavam Kikani Vayonisvasams Tejashushmanamatmavan Apsvashrik Shlishma Puyani Kshito Shesham Yatod Bhavam. Please chant. K in the sky. Kani, all the holes of the body. Vayo, in the air. Nishvasan, all the different airs moving within the body. Prana, apana, etc. Tejashu, in fire. Ishmanam, the heat of the body. Atmavan, a person who knows the self. Apsu, in water. Ashrik, blood. Shleshma, mucus. Puyani, and urine. Krito, in the earth. Shesham, the remaining. Namely skin, bones, and the other hard things in the body. Yata udbhavam, wherefrom all of them grew. Translation: a sober, self-realized person who has full knowledge should merge the various parts of the body in their original sources. The holes in the body are caused by the sky. The process of breathing is caused by the air. The heat of the body is caused by fire, and semen, blood, and mucus are caused by water. The hard substances like skin, muscle, and bone are caused by earth. In this way, all the constituents of the body are caused by various elements, and they should be merged again into those elements. Please repeat. A sober, self-realized person who has full knowledge should merge the various parts of the body in their original sources. The holes in the body are caused by the sky. The process of breathing is caused by the air. The heat of the body is caused by fire. And semen, blood, and mucus are caused by water. The hard substances, like skin, muscle, and bone, are caused by earth. In this way, all the constituents of the body are caused by various elements, and they should be merged again into those elements. Srila Prabhupada's purport: to be self-realized, one must understand the original sources of the various elements of the body. The body is a combination of skin, bone, muscle, blood, semen, urine, stool, heat, breath, and so on, which all come from earth, water, fire, air, and sky. One must be well conversant with the sources of all the bodily constituents. Then one becomes a self-realized person, or Atmavan, one who knows the self. Om again into Mirandasya, Garanjana Slakaya, Chakshurim Lutamina, Tasmai Shigravima. Kam Karoti Vachalam, Pagam Lagati, Grimya Kripa, Tamam Vande, Shikrim Dintarnam, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhanitananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Sari Gora Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. A sober, self-realized person who has full knowledge should merge the various parts of the body in their original sources. The holes in the body are caused by the sky. The process of breathing is caused by air. The heat of the body is caused by fire. And semen, blood, and mucus are caused by water. The hard substances like skin, muscle, and bone are caused by earth. In this way, all the constituents of the body are caused by various elements, and they should be merged again into those elements. Similar verse in the Ishopanishad, where the devotee is stating, let the different elements merge back into where they came from. So this is recognition that we're not this body. So this is what is being said here, that the devotee is recognizing what are the ingredients composing the body. He's separating them, and he's preparing to merge into transcendence because he's identifying not with any of the bodily ingredients or constituents, but he's identifying with the real Atma, or the real self. Sometimes the word Atma, see like this term Atmavan, knower of the self. Then sometimes Atma is referred to as the body or the mind. Now this may be according to one's the situation one is discussing. You know, just because someone asks you what age you are doesn't mean to say they're on the bodily concept of life. It's not like, you know, say your spiritual master says, what age are you? You say, oh, I thought you were transcendental. I'm ageless. You know what you're talking about. You know, you wouldn't say that. Or how tall are you? 1/10,000th part of a tip of human hair. Yeah, well, that's what size of shoe do you take? A microscopic. Okay, we'll take you to a shoe shop and get you like this size of shoe. So we may be talking in conventional, practical terms. Or how are you today? That can be dependent on whether we are absorbed in our body or mind or in our spiritual spiritual concept of the self. You ask one devotee, how are you today? And say, oh, I've got a sore head. You ask another one, how are you today? Oh, my mind's playing up. You ask another one, how are you today? Say, oh, I had a really good japa session. So, and of course, it may be the different answers from the same person at different times, whatever is focused in our mind. But here in preparation for death in Ishopanishad, it's explaining that, and they find this also in the Bible, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. This is often said at the Christian funerals, because they're understanding that this body is not the self. Whether the body is awake or whether it's asleep, it's still not the self. And in our dreaming state, when we're asleep, we might be thinking so many things. We might be dreaming that we become Superman and we're flying through the streets of New York, saving it from all sorts of rascals. And we wake up and we see we're just lying in our bed. or we might be thinking that we're one thing or another, or that we're being, Prabhupada gives an example, might be getting chased by a tiger, and then we wake up and realize there's no tiger there. So similarly in this, as Havi Prabhu put it, we had Havi here, wonderful disciple of Prabhupada, amazing musician. He was speaking about night dream, daydream. He made a musical album back in the 70s, which sold many, many copies, at least in the UK. Before I joined, I'd seen some old friends of mine who had that album. Night dream, daydream. So at night, we're dreaming that we're something. We wake up and we find we're not that. We might be dreaming we're a millionaire. We might be dreaming that we're falling off a cliff and realize that we're just slipping out of the bed or something like that. And in daydream, we're thinking that I'm Mr. This or Mrs. That, and that I'm unemployed, or that I'm a very wealthy, successful person. But when this life is over, that dream will wake up from, at the time of death, we wake up from that temporary dream, which may last 40, 50, 60, 70 years. So Krishna consciousness, and primarily the chanting of the Hare Krishna, is the method for awakening us from this dream. So just like we have friends who stay at Govardhan, Kusum Sarovara, and the old man, when he was still alive with us, he was bitten by a snake. And sometimes when people are bitten by a snake, they don't immediately die. They go into like a comatose state. So they're still living, but there's very little symptom of life. So Mataji called from the local village, which had some neighbouring village, which had some people who were very expert at controlling snakes. And they called one Baba over, and he chanted some mantras, and he had a peacock feather, and he was touching the different orifices of his face, etc., chanting mantras. And then the poison started to come out the orifices, and then he regained consciousness. So by these expert chanting of these mantras, then he was saved, and he lived again for another like 20 or 30 years. And so similarly, by chanting mantras, one is awakened from the slumber of being under the spell of Maya. So this analytical study of the body and its constituents helps us to understand we're not the body. And I can personally testify to this. Before I joined, I came across a Back to Godhead magazine. And there was a couple of things which struck me. One was there was a double-page spread, and it showed you the United Nations building with so many flags, and they're very proud that all these, the more flags we add in, the more united we are. But Prabhupada's comment was, United Nations means one flag. Now you could say, oh, we have a United Nations flag. Yeah, but they still have all their other flags too. So he says, actually, not United Nations, divided nations. Because as soon as one country is not happy with the way things are going, then they pull out of it. And they can't have United Nations because they still see a division. They don't see Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarvalokam Maheshwaram, Suridam Sarvabhutanam. They don't see Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He's a friend of all living entities. And Krishna is not just an Indian god. Krishna may have different names and different cultures, but God is one. Prabhupada often explained that. There's one God. There cannot be two. Otherwise, there'd be no meaning to the word God. And of course, by God, then we mean Krishna. So as far as I know, this word God originates from Old German Gott. So this is actually just like a more modern language description of the Supreme Being. But what is God's actual name? It's Krishna. That's what he tells us. And there's many names according to different qualities and different pastimes, different activities. Just as we may mean something to different people. If if we choose someone and we say, okay, 10 people describe this person, they may describe them differently because they see differently, they relate differently. So according to the individual, this is how they see God. So another thing in this Back to Godhead magazine, the same one, I read how Prabhupada was talking about this bodily identification. I think it was the same article. So he's saying, because of bodily identification, we consider our place of birth as being worshipable. That we think Hungary is the greatest country in the world because at one time we had the Austro-Hungarian Empire. And then we think being British is the best because we had the biggest empire. And, we'll get back there someday. We might think India is the greatest because it's Bharat Varsh. So we might think whatever country we come from. But of course, nowadays it's even hard to see that because there's so much disturbance that people are leaving their countries looking for a better life. But in any case, people identify with a certain country of birth, certain town, even certain specific place. Because of false ego, we think the world revolves around us to greater or less extents. And therefore we think everything related to us has got such great importance. But it means nothing to other people, and they mean nothing to us. If we see some stranger, we don't think, oh, I wonder where that guy was born. That's really important to me. It's really of no consequence. What is of consequence is what you're going to do with the time you've got here. There's one devotee, famous tennis player, Peter Burwash. He wrote a book called Become the Master of Your Dash. So your dash is not like a Bengali version of servant. Dash, I know, dash, I know, dash. Dash means if you go to a graveyard and you see a tombstone and it will say, here lies Joe Smith, 1896 to 1972. And the two, so between 96 and 72, there's a line, and that's the dash. So what happened between this and this? This is the important part. Not when you were born, not when you were finished, but what happened in between those times. So this is what he's referring to as dash. And he wrote a book called Become the Master of Your Dash. So often you'll find people advertising, become the best version of you, like the armed forces, they do that. And so many other people do that. They're offering, they're trying to entice people to work with them, support them, etc. But the best version of you is based on not some temporary thing, but the best version of you is to understand who are you, first of all. So the best version of you is free from all the material contamination. And by contamination, we mean misidentification. We misidentify the body, that's a contamination from pure understanding. And of course, this takes time to change, and there is a process for changing it. And the process is simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, because that directly puts us in touch with the Supreme Lord in our serving mode. In the material world, we're trying to lord over material energy, but we're not being aware that we're creating so much karma by everything we do. But if we learn the art of Bhakti Yoga, devotional service, then everything we do is liberating us. It's not mundane work. So by engaging in devotional service and coming to the point where it's performed favorably without any desire for anything in return. And this is difficult because in the material world, we're accustomed to work reward, where we do something and we expect a result back out of it. In devotional service, we have to understand it is what we do, the mood that we do it in, that's what brings results. I was just smiling there because there's an old song called "It's Not What You Do, It's the Way That You Do It." That's what brings results. But the result, what we're looking for, is not a material result. So the way we do it is without desire for some personal gain. And because since time immemorial, then we're accustomed to looking for some personal gain. Otherwise, we have difficulty motivating ourselves to do something, isn't it? If I call up some builder and I say, okay, I'd like you to build this. I'd like to build this for me, but I'd like you to do it without any desire for any personal gain. You say, what are you talking about? Call me when you're serious. They won't do anything. Time is money for them. But time is money means that money is important in their time to them. But no matter how much money you get, you can't buy back time. So does that not mean that time is more important? So as I say, what you're going to do with your time, with your dash, from when we're born to when we leave this body, that's important, what we do with that time. And Prabhupada emphasizes this so much. Don't waste time. Especially as you get older, you realize that time does pass by quickly. And before you know it, then you're in a situation where you don't have as much time left as you think. So in this article, Prabhupada was analysing the body. He was saying, are you the skin? If the skin is removed, do you die? Do you stop existing? Of course, you'll be in a lot of pain. Or if, some bones are removed from the body. So he was analysing, can we say we're the bones? Can we say we're the blood? If one gets a blood transfusion, then sometimes they have these famous and wealthy people who've got so much money, they just spend themselves getting intoxicated. But then they realise, they've caused so much harm, so they want to get blood transfusions. They clean their blood out. It's a bit like back in the Tudor times or back in the Roman times, they used to have these feasts, and then servants would come round with a bucket and a feather, and after they've gorged themselves with so much food, they'd put the feather down their throat and vomit into the bucket, and then they start eating again. And of course, I'm sure the digestive system was ruined by this, and they probably didn't live very healthy or long lives. But the similar thing they're doing, they're putting so much foreign bodies, intoxicating themselves, and then they think, okay, I'm so wealthy, I can just get a blood transfusion, and then they feel better. But ultimately, unless they become free from the desire, then simply doing a blood transfusion is not necessarily going to solve the problem. So the devotees, we try to, by hearing from the spiritual master, hearing from devotees, hearing from Shastra, then we gain knowledge as to what are the causes of suffering in this material world. And if you know something is going to cause you suffering, then you do something to avoid it. You put all sorts of safeguards in there. And Prabhupada said that everybody wants to enjoy, and that's okay, but they do not know how to enjoy. We know how to suffer. We know how to do things which cause us suffering, but that piece of information, which is what I'm doing going to be good for me in the future? When someone goes into a restaurant and they order a steak thinking, oh, this is opulent, this is great, I'm living the life. They're not aware that they will be living the life on the field next time, waiting in line to get chopped up also. What they do to others, we do to ourselves. This is how it works. So therefore, and we find that in other religions too. Like Jesus said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So that doesn't just apply to humans, it says others. So when the devotee becomes at least theoretical understanding of I'm not this body, then we understand the spirit soul's given life to the body, then we see that's present in all the other species as well. And therefore we become mindful. So chanting Hare Krishna is the process, and but we have to be convinced of this process because it takes some time before the taste for material life wanes and the taste for devotional service overcomes that taste for material life. So meanwhile, we have to stay fixed in our intelligence. Didami Buddha Yogam Tam. So by regular hearing, chanting, serving, remembering all these different aspects, then we are not conditioning ourselves, but we're deconditioning ourselves. It's not that we are making a certain condition of our mind that becomes automatic, and we've refrained from things for so long that now this has become the new habit. Of course, we're trying to make good habits, but it's more than that. It's a matter of, it's not just a matter of replacing one habit with another, but the purpose behind it is so that we can understand the transcendental knowledge, and so we can pass on that knowledge. If we're trying to share Krishna consciousness, then Prabhupada says we have to be pure, and that purity is there in the habits, and in so habits means what we do and what we don't do, what is acceptable to us. So in the beginning, that beginning might be 3 months, it might be 6 months, it might be 30 years, depending on when we've decided to give up. We can't just stick around for 100 years and say, well, in my beginning, and we're still doing most of the same things we were doing 100 years ago or lifetimes ago. We're still in the beginning stage. If we're still attached to the things which we should be free from, then we're still in the beginning stages. So time itself, by engaging in the process, will have some effect, but we have to actively renounce things. We have to actively give up things. It's not like, say, for example, you're addicted to smoking and you get a cigarette in one hand and a bead bag in the other. It's not like, I'll just keep chanting until, I've given up the taste for smoking. You have to give it up and simultaneously take to the other thing. And then there's a crossover stage. So in the material world, the basis of that existence is I, me, and mine, aham, mameti. But in the spiritual world, then the basis of that is Jivera Swarupahoi Krishnera Nityadas, eternal servant of Krishna. So that means Krishna is the center of our attention. And because Krishna is pure, when we keep on putting Krishna in the center, regardless of what difficulties come, and regardless of either difficulties coming from other people, from our own body and mind, natural phenomena, etc., just keep on putting Krishna in the center, then we're making steady progress. So keeping good association is essential for that, because on our own, then Maya can break us down. If we think we can do it on our own and we don't need other devotees, then that's what you'd call cruising for a bruising, or that we're heading towards disaster. That mentality itself is already faulty, because Lord Chaitanya advises us, asat sangha tyag, to give up the association, tyag, to give up sangha, the association asat of materialistic mind, materially minded persons. So giving that up is one thing, but in Vedic lessons, when you say don't do this, then there's also The opposite is also there. Do this. Don't do this. Do that. Don't step here. Step here. Don't do like this. Do like this. So it's not just a naiti, not this, not that, not iti. If we just negate things, then what you're left with, voidism or impersonalism. And Prabhupada was Nirvishesha Shunyavadi. He came to deliver us from that. So we can negate certain things, but they have to be replaced by the positive things. Therefore, Prabhupada said very simply, if you like to eat nice food stuff, then cook them for Krishna, offer them to Krishna first, and then you can have. Of course, in due course of time, we want to become better than that rather than just cooking for Krishna what we like. But being happy to accept any type of prasadam that comes is a very low grade of devotional service. If we can't see prasadam as prasadam, sometimes we see there's mahaprasad in the trays, and devotees don't take any of it. You don't understand. This is actually from the deity's plate itself, payila. The deity's saliva has touched this. This means this is purified. This has been offered to the Lord with tulsi on it, which means He's accepted it. Anything which is offered with tulsi, the Lord accepts. So if anyone is thinking, okay, am I allowed to take one morsel of prasad a day? Then what would your choice be? If you weren't sure if it was prasadam or not, it would be tulsi, if it's offered. So say that tulsi is a real prasad because Krishna never refuses that. And this is in the song Boga Arti. They may offer 64 different types of curries or so many different types of sweets, but unless it's offered with love and devotion, unless it's offered with tulsi, then the deity, the Lord, is not happy to accept it. Of course, at home, people who are living at home, they may not have tulsi, but they can still offer with love and devotion. This is what Krishna is asking for us. Yumi bhaktya prachate tadam bhaktya paritam. So twice he says devotion. So it's the devotion that he wants. So when we chant Hare Krishna, Prabhupada gives us the mood that we should be like the genuine cry of child for Mother Hara. We're not in control of the mantra, but we're asking to be controlled by the mantra. We're asking to be the servants of Radha and Krishna. And it's coming up for Lord Nityananda's appearance day. And Radha Krishna Payati Nai, unless one gets the mercy of Lord Nityananda, then one has no possibility of entering into a relationship with Radha and Krishna. And how do we get the mercy of Lord Nityananda? There's one nice verse which explains that. It begins with Bhaja.
I don't know the verse, but by pleasing devotees.
Yeah. Now, but what does pleasing the devotees means? That you just fill them full of gulabs from dawn till dusk, and get the best pair of sandals you can find. Get them a nice woolen chadar. And Lord Nityananda's going, oh, that's very good. The devotees have got nice chadars and sandals and lots of gulabs. Yeah. Bhaja Goranga, Kaha Goranga, Laha Goranga, Namare, Jajana Goranga, Bhaji, Se Amara Pranare. So because Lord Nityananda, he's the first expansion of Krishna as Balaram, same Nityananda as Balaram, Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. Golokara Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. So Gaurnitai, as Krishna and Balaram have descended into Kali Yuga to give the holy name, this Premadan, gift of pure love. And because Lord Balaram is the first expansion of Krishna, he's known as Adi Guru. He is original servant. When we talk about Guru, people think Guru means some kind of master, but it means the best servant. He's teaching us how to serve. This is why he's a teacher, because he's serving. In the material world, we think teacher is the top dog, and nobody else tells him what to do. But the spiritual master, he's always looking for ways to instruct and engage the disciples for their benefit. So Lord Balaram also, he is looking to engage living entities, and because particularly in Kali Yuga, as Sri Nityananda Prabhu, then the mood of compassion is to engage all souls in chanting the holy names. So if we do like this, we take the holy name of Gauranga, give to others, spread the teachings and the message of Lord Gauranga, which is to take the holy name to every town and village. Then we're serving the mission of Lord Chaitanya. It means that Lord Nityananda is very pleased. And this is how we get his mercy. And then experiencing this Jechai Jagata Jurai, the shade of millions of moons, is there. And Lord Nityananda is very kind and very merciful. Prabhupada explains we should approach Lord Nityananda. If we have some problem, we can approach the Lord and say, "My dear sir, I have this problem, please help." And we can try it. If you have some problem you're having difficulty overcoming, approach Lord Nityananda and he will help. And this is, when we pray like this and we see the results, then this gives us even more faith to continue with that. It's not that we just do it once and then, okay, that's fine, I can now get on with my nonsense again. Prabhupada showed that example, continually praying so that we can remain safe from the influence of Maya. So included in the understanding of Bhakti Yoga is the Sankhya philosophy as well, where we analyze the different constituents of the body and we understand I'm not this. But still, as much as I remember in the Bhakti program, Rohini Nandan Prabhu, he was teaching us that he says, just like you have a car accident, sometimes people run into each other in a car and they get out and they say, "Oh, you've hit me." But you haven't hit me at all. It's just the car. It's nothing to do with you. You know, you can walk away. You've not felt anything, you know, unless you actually had an injury. But, you know, say we have some damage. Because we identify with the car, we think this is me. Same with the body. We identify so strongly with the body. But when we get hurt, then we become distressed, especially if it seems like it might be some lifelong injury. And part of that distress is that we understand that our facility for enjoyment is diminishing. Like, say, for example, you lose a limb or you lose some faculty, you lose your sight or something. Then it becomes a big struggle, you know, how to survive, how to enjoy again. And because we identify with the body so much and the pleasures derived from the body, then that can affect us, our state of mind very much. So therefore we're being guided here not to identify with the body. We live within the body, we have to maintain it, we don't neglect it. But it does mention that I think it was in the Nectar of Devotion that we just read, actually. It was mentioning that once one gets older, then one may not have so many material responsibilities, then they should start performing austerities like fasting, etc. You see that within many of the sannyasis in ISKCON. Some of them are very thin because they're very controlled. But it's not necessarily a hard and fast rule, but it's sometimes people choose that as an austerity. As long as one doesn't become proud of austerities, that's good. If by our devotional service we become successful and we become proud of it, then we have to analyze, is that devotional service for Krishna or is it for me? is it for some attention to me that I'm the best at this? So I'm really good at this. We can accept Krishna's given us some ability, but we always parry on the the credit to Guru, Krishna, devotees, because without them, if we're humble enough, without them, we'd realise that we wouldn't be in devotional service. So no one is an island. Okay, we'll just stop there. I'm waiting any comments or questions.
Yeah, you were saying about habits. They say it takes 28 days to form a habit, so I just thought I'd mention that. And then about time going past quickly. So if you've been doing service for a long time and the time has gone past, then should we be worried if we're not getting the taste that we thought we should have by now?
I don't know that worry is the word. I think maybe we should be looking to see why. We should be questioning that. And maybe we have to question someone more senior than ourselves. And they may be able to detect that there's something which needs adjustment. That may make all the difference. There may be something that we're neglecting or something we're holding on to, which is just stopping us from, just like sometimes you may have a water tap, and then it's working to some degree, but then it might even start to stop working. And it may be a case of you call someone and you try so many things, nothing happens. And you call someone in who's expert and they say, okay, this is just a blockage here. And they do something and they remove the blockage very expertly, and then it's coming out full force again. So it could be, that's why spiritual master is always there. But it's not just necessarily that the spiritual master is the only one that can help us and there's nothing we can do until we meet him again in a year's time or something, We should also find devotees who we have respect and trust for. And through our reading as well, we try to understand. And through praying, if we pray to the Lord, pray to the deities, then they'll show us, where the obstacles are so that they can be removed. Is that okay? Anything else?
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. How do we prepare ourselves? Like translation here, and maybe previous verse also said that at the time of that, we should merge our bodily elements with this material elements like dust to dust, and also how should we do this? Like,
Yes, so for the yogis, they may work in a certain way to do that mechanically, but for the devotees, they become so absorbed in transcendence that everything they do, they may have what's called a material body, but actually it's not material body because it's been used in devotional service. So just like Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati, his spiritual master, Srila Gaur Kishore, he said that when I pass away, just drag my body through the streets and give it to the vultures. And so some people, thinking that they were going to be faithful to that instruction, were attempting to do this. And Srila Bhaktivedanta says, nobody will touch this body of my divine spiritual master. Nobody will touch the divine body of my guru. And because he's saying that this is not a material body, it's been used 10% in Krishna's service. So we don't have to worry about mechanically merging the various elements. We just focus on Krishna consciousness and everything else will happen. So this is just described also that for a devotee, leaving this world and going into the spiritual world is like thunder and lightning happening simultaneously. There's no separation, there's no distance in time. When thunder and lightning happen at the same place at the same time, it means it's right there and then. It's not delayed in some way. So this means basically that one gives up material body without even thinking about it. Finish line, they don't even see the hurdles. Even if some of them get knocked down, they just keep going. So and just getting to the finish line, jumping over the hurdles happens automatically. So, but it's there to help us understand, we're not the body. And if we make any analysis, we wouldn't be able to identify which part of the body we are. Sometimes people say, well, we're the brain, or we're the heart. But the spiritual science says that the soul is situated within the region of the heart and spreads consciousness as the blood passes through. So I think that's all I can say at that point, unless anyone has anything else to offer. Okay, Skan Gurvinda ki, Prabhupada ki, Tantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Thai Guru Premanande.